quick updates. Our council schedule for both November and December, due to the holidays, will only have one meeting each month. So it'll be the first half of each month. In November, we'll have first reading of the budget. So encourage folks to tune in for that. And then I had an opportunity last Thursday evening to attend a community forum hosted at the church by Together for Timnath on the topic of economic development. They had 3 different folks in the area that have experience with that. And that was certainly an interesting session. I understand that they recorded that and they intend to publish that on their YouTube channel. So if anyone wasn't able to attend but is interested, I certainly encourage them to check that out. Anything else from council before we move on? All right, on to staff reports, beginning with finance report. Ms. Gagliardi? Not here, okay. Council, do we have any questions on the finance report? All right. Public Works, Director Stone.
I have nothing to report unless you have questions.
I will ask, you provided in there, but could you give just a brief update on the Parkway progress?
Yeah, so if you've been out there, it's quite a lot of work's been going on. So north of the railroad, we completed all the landscaping and pavements, pretty much completed north of 4th Avenue, and that's expected to open by the end of the year, that portion. As you see, the construction's really working now on the south side of 4th Street. So right now we're working on getting that ready to be paved. And also working with the railroad, one of the big items there is to get all the crossing arms and stuff like that, but we have paved up to that. We got the crossing, the railroad was out, put the crossing in, so now it's just to get the signal equipment, and that's still scheduled for next spring when we open that section of the parkway.
Good. Council, any questions here?
Do you have an expected opening date of Busgrove, when that will reopen?
Yeah, I believe it's going to be actually at next week, but I'll confirm that and we'll put it out there. But I think on our website we do have November 1st is when we're targeting that.
So within the next few weeks or so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to Community Development, Director Robinson.
I do not have any updates unless there's any questions.
I'd just like to make a comment since several citizens have raised the issue in the past about the large recharge pond near Old Town. I walked it last, I believe it was Saturday, and there's been quite a bit of progress that I can see in terms of landscaping, trees being planted, the irrigation system being put in, et cetera. So it looks like the developer's making good progress on that. I don't know if you have any further comments, but I'm very pleased to see that happening.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Councilmember Jenkins. Developer is still waiting for some fence posts to be delivered, for some fencing, I believe most of it, and then some additional landscaping will be put in, I guess, west of the parkway where they finished all the sod and landscaping there, so you'll see more landscaping happen around the augmentation pond. They do have a schedule for winter watering, so the landscaping, once they turn off the irrigation, there will be watering some of the landscaping out there through the winter. The goal is ultimately to have that site in compliance and ready to go through initial acceptance with the town next spring, early summer, depending on when the water levels are at the right level. Yep.
Great, thank you.
Any questions? All right, on to Parks and Recreation, Director Kessel.
I have nothing to add unless you have any questions about the report.
How's sign up going for the fall sports?
Winter basketball is going real well. So we're starting now. Interleaguing practices just started, which is for K1 boys and girls, and then also 2nd through 4th grade girls basketball is going on right now, and then after the first of the year, we'll have boys first grade through fourth grade, or second grade through fourth grade starting. So, but registration's good.
Go ahead, Jeremy.
Yep, I was just going to say, I've been driving by the new Wild Wing Park recently. I mean, the progress looks great. Park looks great. I mean, obviously, I know there's still ways to go, but excited to see that open. It's going to be an awesome addition. So great work.
Thank you.
And Tom, did I hear a rumor that we're going to get flag football in Timnath next year?
It's part of the schedule, so it'll be fall of next year is when we're doing that. So we're incrementally, as we have field space, we can start adding. So
Awesome.
in the spring, we're going to add a city group to soccer.
Okay.
We're going to do T-ball next summer. So we're incrementally growing, as well as with once we get some additional staff on help.
Thank you.
They're looking for volunteer coaches.
Yeah, I'll be there.
All your
I'll be there.
spare time.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Tom.
Great. Thank you, sir. Council, anything else? All right. And then finally, police, Chief Jones.
Nothing further, Mayor, other than 2 weeks ago we hosted the Citizens Academy, and I can tell you it was a stellar group of participants and thought-provoking questions.
Excellent.
Glad to answer any questions if you have them.
Thank you, Chief. You know, the one thing I wanted to mention is I do know we have one officer departing the force, and please relay my thanks and the thanks of council to Officer Cardenas. He's been with us a significant amount of time, and I've always enjoyed interacting with him. You know, I know his reasons for leaving, you know, are family related and whatnot, but we're sure sorry to see him go and wish him the best. Council, anything else? Okay. We will now proceed to our regular business items. Generally, the way these go is we introduce an item. The staff will give a presentation. If there's an applicant involved, the applicant will give their presentation. After that, council will ask any questions. Once we're done with questions, there's usually a motion to approve or deny the item. Council will discuss the matter, and then finally we will have a vote. But our first item is actually very exciting. It is a presentation for our graduating Citizens Academy class. Director Adams, anything you'd like to say about this particular class and the academy?
I would just say thank you all for being here tonight and each of the other nights that you've been here, so thank you all.
Yeah, I've spoken to a number of staff members, and including the chief, and everyone has spoken very positively about it. As I mentioned to you, but before we met here, really appreciate you being here and learning more about the town and getting to understand the really great staff that we have here and all the great things that are going on. It's pretty easy for the five of us to sit up here and vote yes, but really it's all the work behind the scenes that makes all of this happen. A number of us have come from Citizens Academy. A number of our planning commissioners have come from Citizens Academy. We'll have the Old Town Committee coming up. I know some of you applied there, but really encourage all of you to take the opportunity, have this be the beginning of your involvement in the town, not your end, not the end, and we appreciate it. So with that, my thought was, Town Manager Adams, we have our certificates over here. If maybe I could call up one by one, you could present them with the certificate, and then we'll have everyone stand up here and do a group photo. Would that work? All right, first, Greg Ituraiga. Did I get it close? Greg? Oh, there he is. I'm sorry, sir. Great. Iturriaga, is that it? Right. Very good. And then we'll just make line. Marcus Leduc. Rob Collette. Monica Plake. Steve Whittall. We'll come down, you'll be fine. Jody Gray. Tim Haskett. Yeah, next time we need the music, the graduation music. Dennis Strakota. Holly Griffith. Is not with us tonight, but I wanted to recognize both Gary and Becky Spurrier. Barbara Headley. Jim Gross. Nathaniel Vallejo. Ken Franza. Did I get anywhere close? Oh, I'm so sorry. Jared Houghton. Katrin Elschels. Allison Keithley. And Jane Spencer. Does it look okay with us back here, or would you rather have us up front?
You guys gotta come down. You gotta, short people in front, get close, be friendly. Okay, wait, and I'm gonna take one so I can put it on our Instagram right now.
Thank you all. All right, congratulations, everyone. We will now move on to business item 6B, resolution number 68, series 2024, a resolution approving an updated emergency operations plan. Town Manager Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 6B and 6C sort of go hand in glove, so I'll speak to both. And I'm going to keep my remarks really brief, and then I'll pass it over to Justin, who really did the heavy lift on this. But for the year of 2024, set as a goal for me personally to work through the emergency operations plan. The plan you always want to have but hope to never use. As our emergency manager, Justin came in and he charged at it hard. And so he put a lot of work in, including a tabletop exercise to put the plan to the test. I'm happy to report we didn't have to have any significant changes. The plan in place was solid, but definitely in due of an update. So Justin definitely took that on, knocked it out of the park. Also would like to thank the folks from Poudre Fire Authority and Larimer County who were instrumental in helping us to pull this together. They are true experts in the field, and we're very fortunate to have them as community partners. So with that, I'll actually turn it to Justin to fill in any details.
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. So yeah, one of the first duties coming here would be to be the emergency manager. So that was a new position for me. So I do want to thank Aaron. He did give me a lot of encouragement, also guidance that helped out quite a bit, also with the connections that he mentioned. And other members of the team too, other department heads help create or update this document. Other staff, really want to thank Susan, who put together the old plan that was scanned. So she was very helpful on getting that into a digital form that we could then update. And then she also helped set up the meetings. Really wanted to thank her for that. And like Aaron said, the Larimer County Office of Emergency Management, Cole Parrott, he's kind of our help when we get the big emergency stuff that we could step up. And we try to handle with emergency operations, we try to handle as much as we can, but then it's good to have that big brother there. And he helped out quite a bit since, again, like I said, this was a new foray for me to help me out quite a bit on this. And then also with Jeff Butler too, with the Poudre Fire Authority, were instrumental in helping that. Other emergency responders, of course, Chief Harry, and then also Robert helped out quite a bit on this. As Aaron said, we started this in April and worked on both the emergency operations plan and the government continuity plan. Tabletop exercise we conducted in August of 29th. I wanted to thank Council Member Wagner for attending that tabletop. That was very helpful, especially at the policy level. I think he also attended another tabletop that we did with the county earlier in the year, so we do appreciate that. From that, we had insights and lessons that we learned from that tabletop exercise that were incorporated. And I'll just go over those real quickly, some of the amendments. So one of the big things is we added an incident support group that would coordinate the town of Timnath's response to any disasters, emergencies that we didn't have before. So that was comprised of a core decision makers who provide strategic direction and support to ensure coordinated and effective response. So now we have that team with mainly like Aaron, myself, and the police department, and then also it could like grow and add as we need to bring in the policymakers like you, the mayor, or the mayor pro tem, depending on what the situation is. The other thing is we clarified the town manager authority to waive purchasing or other procedures. So I know in Loveland, one of the big incidents, if you heard about the 2013 flood, was they almost their water line. So be able to get some emergency help to get that fixed instead of waiting for certain procedures. You know, you still have to follow up and justify it, but those are real critical to have those measures in case something happens and we need to respond very quickly. The other thing is we add the town manager's ability to request county, state, and federal assistance depending on what the situation is. So that was the major changes. The rest of it was, like I said, pretty new. We had a good document, so we didn't have to make too many changes. And as far as the government continuity plan highlights, one of the things is, of course, we've changed buildings. So the Goodman building, which is Public Works, was like the town hall. So we still had in the document that was the Emergency Operations Center. So now with the new police department, we have a lot more technology. We have the generator. So we have the police department as Emergency Operations Center. And also what we've learned with COVID is sometimes to be able to do virtual, a lot of stuff we could maybe do emergency operations virtually too. So we added that into there. And then one of the other things is the IT technology. So like, for instance, that was where the both Cole and then Jeff Butler had mentioned to have some kind of like, what we have is like Microsoft Teams or some kind of other collaborative communication tool. So that is one of the things we want to start implementing and working on real quickly. I'm already talked to George, the IT person, to try to implement that as soon as we can. So with that, I don't know if you have any questions, but appreciate all your support on this.
Council questions?
Yeah, so I'm wondering if there are any plans for staff members to do any additional ICS courses or training in incident management. And then one other thing, because I'm actually involved in a SAR group, and we use Microsoft Teams, but we also use for communication Facebook Messenger because it is the only application out there that will do store and forward essentially forever until whatever message device you use makes a connection, and there's nothing else out there. So I would suggest you look into Facebook Messenger as a backup communication tool alongside of Teams.
Yeah, to answer your question on the ICS, so yes, I had some other courses. I had some courses for my previous job, but we do work with Hope, our HR person. So that is part of the job duties we do have for certain levels, that they do have to have different levels of ICS training. But we'll look that up because, we want to make sure we're up to date on that too. But we do have that.
Great.
Mayor Pro Tem? Councilmember?
No, I'll just add, appreciate it. A lot of work going into it. I've been up here now for, 6 or 7 months, and it seems every meeting there's an improvement. There's stuff the staff is constantly doing to work on to better this town, and just wanted to say thanks for what you guys are doing. It's definitely noticed, and we appreciate it, so thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, one other point I should have brought up but neglected. There is a training that you all are would be available to take on Saturday, geared towards administrators and elected officials. I've done it in the past, very helpful. I think Lori Hodges would probably still take you sort of last minute. So if you have an interest, let me know and we can make sure you get connected there. But that's this Saturday. Bill, you actually sparked my memory as you said that. And so we do have, our staff as part of the onboarding does some of that NIMS training. So if you could use a refresher or coming in without experience in that realm and would like to know what would be expected as an elected official, I would highly recommend it. Lori's excellent.
Can we for those of us that want to but can't make Saturday, can we put that kind of on our agenda as when the next one is? Because I would love to attend it. I'll be out of town, but I would love to.
I'll let Lori know.
Yeah, that'd be great.
There are also some really great online ones that you can take at your leisure, and I can let you guys know about
Perfect.
those.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay. We'll begin with agenda item 6B. Is there a motion at this time to approve the resolution approving an updated emergency operations plan?
I so move.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Council discussion.
I just want to reiterate the thank you for going through all the process of doing this. I've worked for the county in the past, and I know that was a high priority there for all of those departments, and I've done some of the online trainings, and like you said, hopefully we never need to use it, but it's there if we do.
I'd also like to say thank you for updating the plan and also doing the tabletop. I think that's a very important exercise, and hopefully maybe you guys can do an annual kind of tabletop exercise just to keep things sharp. It's useful. But thank you.
Yeah, I'll definitely be voting in favor of this after going through the exercise and seeing the work that you guys have done. A lot of great work. I read through this, and all the amendments that you guys have done or the changes that you've done makes a lot of sense. And I want to thank the staff that aren't here that put the hard work into it as well. And all this makes a lot of sense to me.
Councilmember Holt, anything? I will also be supporting this. In a prior life, I served as incident commander for numerous significant events, and the one thing that I can glean from that is the plan doesn't do any good sitting in a file cabinet, and it's really most effective when you take it out and you practice with it. And so I guess I would just encourage, town staff, let's find opportunities to take this for a test drive. When we have town events, even though we may not need a full structure, let's maybe spin it up a little bit and try it out. And I think that goes a long way to when, the actual emergency hits. So, any other comments? Okay. Then all those in favor of approving Resolution 68, Series 2024, a resolution approving an updated emergency operations plan, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. It passes unanimously. Before I ask for a motion, is there any additional questions as it pertains to the resolution about a government continuity plan? Okay. Then at this time, a motion would be in order to approve a resolution approving an updated government continuity plan.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Comments, beginning with Councilmember Jenkins.
I totally support it. Glad that it's been updated and read through it. It makes sense to me. So I will be supporting it.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah. Once again, I'm in favor of this resolution, and I want to thank our experts for putting this together. So, yeah, thank you again.
Councilmember Lake?
I have nothing to add.
All right, and I will rest on my prior comments. So all those in favor of Resolution 69, Series 2024, a resolution approving an updated government continuity plan, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. It carries unanimously. We'll move on to item 6D, Resolution 70, Series 2024, a resolution approving a temporary construction easement agreement and permanent water easement agreement with the North Weld County Water District on town-owned property known as KM South. Mr. Smith.
Good evening. It's my pleasure to present to you for your consideration a resolution approving a temporary construction easement and a permanent water line easement agreement with the North Weld County Water District. It's on property, town-owned property known as the KM South property. That's located at the southwest corner of Highway 14 and Weld County Road 15. So it's out there a ways, but it is town-owned property. So we've been talking with North Weld County now for several weeks on this proposed easement. They're in the design phase of extending a project known as NEWT, which is a joint project between East Larimer County Water District and North Weld County Water District. At the east end of that project, North Weld County proposes to extend that main further east on their system. So it would run along ultimately run along the north side of the KM South property and the east side, basically right up against the property lines. The permanent easement would be a 30-foot easement, and 40-foot, I'm sorry, and the temporary construction easement is 60 feet. So the total compensation for the easement paid by the water district to the town is $79,650. That's based on an appraisal by CBRE, and I know that the town has used that firm in the past, so certainly a reputable firm. I have a copy of that appraisal. It happens to be sitting on my desk right now, but if anyone would like to see it, I'd be glad to share that information with you. Obviously, one of the advantages is we get paid for these easements, almost $80,000. There are also some disadvantages that come along with that. There are certain encumbrances that that you have to endure as a result of granting an easement, and that's whether it's a water line easement or any other easement. Those are generally outlined in paragraph 7 of the easement agreements. There are some obvious things that we can't build a building over a water line easement, and obviously we wouldn't do that anyway. We can't impound water. In this case, the easements are at the uphill side of the property. When that property is developed, hopefully as a regional park or sports complex in the future, detention and drainage would flow to the southwest, so I don't think that's an impact either. Prohibitions against toxic waste and so forth. Probably the biggest limitation is on some of the landscaping, no trees over 3 foot tall, but it still does allow other landscaping and so forth easement. One of the things that we've tried to do as a staff, Carolyn's been heavily involved with the review of this, plus other members of staff, is we want to protect our interests out in the future, as we want to protect our ability to develop it as a park or whatever that might be. So we have made sure that we retain the ability to put sidewalks in and paths and landscape and be able to use the property generally as you would if no easement there, with the exception of those items that I mentioned earlier. I'll give you a parallel example as we're talking to the Northern Colorado Water Conservancy District about an easement on the east side of the Wild Wing project. That easement would run right through that parking lot. So this is very similar. So with that, we recommend approval. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
If in the future the town decided to build a park adjacent to that easement, would the town have the ability to gain water for irrigation purposes from the water district?
We wouldn't be able to tap that main directly. It's a transmission main, but what that improvement does is allows the water district to then expand their system. So they would likely tap onto that with larger water mains that we could then tap on. But that's a good point. We would have water available to that site in the future.
Right, because right now there's no water supply nearby, correct?
There is water out there, smaller water lines. This project will enhance the serviceability of the district out in that area.
Yeah, so it might actually be a benefit to the town ultimately if we were to develop it as a park.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
And I'm less familiar with this property map, and sorry, I can't read this map. If possible, you could bring up a map and show us what this looks like, maybe on Google Maps, and where this is, and maybe what this might look like.
Give us a minute.
Okay. And if you want to answer questions, pull up, that's fine.
Try to pick up, pull that up. Do you have any other questions?
You know, I was going to ask, the location of the easement, is it such that it will restrict us from being able to put structures out there, or is it in a setback or something like that wouldn't be a problem for us?
It will restrict us to a certain extent, but in general, when you develop a property, there's a certain setback based on the zoning, and those are usually, quite a ways off the property line in some cases. So this would basically overlap the existing zoning setback, so the impact is minimal as far as placing structures.
We intend that property now to be a park eventually. If a future council changed directions and said sell it and develop it, is allowing this easement potentially limiting the value of for other purposes?
Well, certainly it would encumber the property in perpetuity or until the water line was removed and the easements removed. I think in general, you might lose about the same amount of value as we're obtaining in payment, but that's hard to say down the road.
And another thing on this is once we bring it up on the map, is this is the least impact to the property because it's really on the fringes, and it's also Highway 14, so there's going to be generous setbacks. So more likely, this would be kind of open space anyway. So by having them clear on the edges, it minimizes our impact as if it went right down the middle of the property.
Well, I'm not able to share my map.
And Aaron, maybe you can answer this question. How large is this property that the town owns?
Have that there, Scott? It's that south portion, it's more than 40 acres. Do you know that, Earl, off the top of your head? How much on KM South?
Yeah, based on the map, it looks like a quarter section, which would be 160 acres.
Okay. Okay, I just wanted to see the total property, and this is one. Okay. All right, thank you.
And the easement, it looks like, is what, 3.09 acres along Highway 4, right on the edge of the property on Highway 14 and County Road 15, right? So in both cases, it's right on the edge, right next to the roadway, so.
The other thing to add is usually what you do along highways too is you have the right-of-way, and right behind the right-of-way is usually utility easement. So this would also be typically where you would put, especially because you don't want to be having a water line being replaced in the middle of Highway 14. So.
One other question with regard to the water easement. This 30-foot easement would not preclude, or would it, other utilities being put in that same easement?
It's a non-exclusive easement, so that does not preclude other utilities.
Great. Yeah.
So the actual size of the property is 141 acres. Thanks.
And the CIP calls for any of that 141 acres to be designated for a park for the sports complex as part of the Pros Master Plan.
Thank you. I think we're good. Thank you.
Council, any other questions? Okay.
Luke said he's good without the map.
All right. If there are no further questions, at this time, is there a motion to approve a resolution approving a temporary construction easement and a permanent water easement agreement with the North Weld County Water District on town-owned property known as KM South?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, discussion beginning with Councilmember Lake.
I have nothing to add.
Councilmember Jenkins?
I think this is a perfectly fine agreement. Water, as we know, is important, and expanding the distribution system also important, and potential for the town benefiting from that water main seems fairly obvious to me, so I'm in favor of this and will be voting for it.
Councilmember Holt?
No, I'll echo Councilmember Jenkins. Sounds like it's going in, I mean, if it could go in any better of an area, that's the best place to put it, right? We're closer to the road. It's not really restricting anything. You know, I originally shared the same concerns as the mayor of potentially restricting any, buildings, but with the setbacks, I mean, I think this is only going to, not only put money back in the town's account, but also benefit for future, and, excited to see the potential of the park and sports complex down the road.
Yeah, I'll also be voting in favor of this with the, sounds like minimal impact on the acreage and the potential on the park, as well as sounds like the staff has done their due diligence to minimize the impact and negotiate what we can put in there. So it sounds like we've done our homework on this one, so I'll be voting in favor.
I will as well. My concerns about potentially restricting the options for the property in the future, I am satisfied with the explanation there, and given that it is right along Highway 14, that's an area that is likely to be a utility easement regardless of what happens there. So I will also be supporting it. So with that, all those in favor of the resolution approving a temporary construction easement and a permanent water easement with the North Weld County Water District town-owned property known as KM South signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. Carries unanimously. We will move to our final agenda item of the evening, which is a public hearing. Public hearing differs a little bit from a standard resolution in that after we have the staff and applicant presentation, if applicable, there's an opportunity for members of the public to provide input to council. That is limited to 3 minutes per individual. And then after that, we'll proceed as usual with questions, staff, a motion, discussion, and a vote. So I will turn it over to Attorney Steffel.
Thank you. You have before you ordinance number 15, series 2024 on second reading. And this ordinance amends section 1420 of the Town of Timnath Municipal Code in regards to general penalties for violations. This section currently allows the court to enter a default judgment when a summons is issued and a ticket is issued and the individual fails to appear in municipal court. And then they can currently issue those default judgments for general traffic offenses of not more than 4 points or for speeding offenses of not more than 6 points. They did not address parking violations. So under the current if there's a parking ticket issued and the individual does not pay it before scheduled court hearing and then fails to appear at the court hearing, the court has to issue an order to show cause, has to send out a certified mailing, which has a cost associated with it. What this would do instead is if an individual failed to appear for the parking ticket, the judge could issue default judgment as long as it was a 0-point parking violation, and then this would be sent to collections instead of requiring it to issue an order to show cause. So this was brought to our attention by the municipal court clerk, and the recommendation was to help the municipal judge in moving through the docket in particular and administering these parking violations for times when the individuals were not showing up. If you look at the end of the staff report, there's a red line version of the municipal code provision, and you'll see we actually only add a few words. We're just adding the 0-point parking violations to the provisions that would otherwise allow the municipal judge to issue a default judgment.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Steffel. Next step will be here if there is any public comment. I don't have anyone that has signed up, but this time I'll put a call out there. If there's any member of the public who would like to speak on this item, now is the time. I see no one wishing to speak, so we will move on now to council questions. Council. So, Ms. Steffel, I actually do have a question. The prior things that we had this procedure for are items in which a police officer would have an interaction with someone and personally serve them with a summons. But parking tickets are often don't have that personal interaction and I assume are left on the dash or under the windshield wiper or whatever. What recourse does the individual who, never gets their parking ticket have if they don't know about their court date and our court just issues a default judgment and all of a sudden collections is bugging them?
So they can contest this for good cause shown, and this is in for excusable neglect. On the grounds of excusable neglect, the municipal judge may, on motion of the defendant, set aside an entry of default and the judgment entered thereon. Says motion must be filed with the court within 7 calendar days of entry of the judgment for such matter. So that would be the recourse that they would have.
How does an individual know that there's been a judgment against them?
So, if I may, if the judge does enter a default order, then court clerk does send a default letter to the defendant, letting them know that they have been defaulted and they're given a certain amount of time to pay that, or if they don't pay in time, then that goes into collections.
Okay. It's sent to the vehicle's registered address?
Yes.
Okay, so presumably if they've moved or whatever, that's on them for not updating their address?
Yes. Just like with any violation.
Is this common practice amongst other jurisdictions?
Yes, it is.
Quick question with that is the only notification of the parking ticket, placement of the ticket on the vehicle, not mail? I mean, I don't think I've ever, unfortunately, in my parkings in Old Town, and my many parking tickets, Fort Collins, not here. It's always been on my window. But I don't know that I've ever gotten any mail, so I don't think that's common protocol. But do we mail notification of a parking ticket, or only of you missed your court hearing and now you have a judgment?
It's my understanding that the ticket's placed on their windshield and their only notification would be you're defaulted.
Which to the mayor's point, that is common practice, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Council, any other questions? Okay. At this time, is there a motion to approve Ordinance 15, Series 2024, an ordinance amending Chapter 1, Article 4 of the Timnath? Yeah.
I just have one question. How many of these do we have in a year where they don't show up for a parking ticket? Do we have? Yeah, for a parking in approximately. I mean, is it like 10? Is it 50? 100? At least 25 a year.
Per month.
Per month? Oh, that's a lot. Yeah.
But it costs us at least almost $10 a show cause order to send out.
Yeah, it's a lot of work for the court if they don't show up,
and it's a lot of
expense for
additional
the
fees.
town that's not recoverable.
Right, and it's a lot of additional fees on the defendant that get added.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So this is also perhaps beneficial to the defendant in the case where it did blow off the window. They're going to get a notice in the mail,
Yeah.
and then they can pay it for the original amount.
There are default and court
But
costs.
it's still better than the alternative.
Because because
We're
there
getting into
is,
the
because there's show cause fees, there's court costs, there's still additional fee on top
But
of.
it's still cheaper than the current way
Yes.
we're doing it. So it does benefit the person that got the ticket
Yes,
as well as the town.
yes.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Other questions? All right, then at that point, is there a motion to approve the ordinance amending Chapter 1, Article 4 of the Timnath Town Code?
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, Councilmember Jenkins, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's going to save the town money, time, staff effort, and in the long run, it'll save the individual who got the ticket a few bucks as well. So I think it's a win-win. I'll be voting for it.
Yeah, I'm going to be voting in favor of this. Always appreciate when staff bring efficiencies to council.
Yes, I'll also be voting for it. I do want to make a public service announcement that just because it may be cheaper and easier, please save our police department the time and do not get parking tickets. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to vote for it. I do have legitimate concerns about the fairness of the service aspect, but that's the reality of the world that we live in. It is the common practice, but that is a concern for me. All right, all those in favor of amending the town code as described signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, nay? All right, again, we are unanimous. Council, I believe we have run out of agenda items. Is there anything before we adjourn? Very well, then we stand adjourned.